unimaginable tragedy in Shreveport, Louisiana. 8 children gunned down in cold blood. 7 of the 8 children were shot by their own father. On this episode of Shrimp Boots, we're going to get into it.
So there's additional flooding that's going on, and as that flood water starts to rise, it's making little islands and pockets of people that can't be reached.
This week, the Shreveport 8. An unimaginable tragedy, as we said. 8 children gunned down in cold blood. United Cajun Navy Incident Commander Josh Gill was on the scene. Josh, welcome to the podcast. First of all, thanks for being here. Great job this week. You and Chaplain Tony Dickey went up there to service that community. Just tell us what the scene was like when you got to Shreveport.
So, Brian, thanks for having me. The scene was one of utter despair, just an unimaginable event that was there. When we first got there, we went straight to the house, straight to the scene of what happened, and there was already a memorial that was set, much like what we saw in Arizona with Nancy Guthrie, but this was for 8 children.
So, Josh, this gunman, father of 7 of the 8 children, he made the decision to go to the house with an AR-15, okay, and decided to point and shoot to kill 8 children and shot at, what, 2 or 3 adults?
2 adults.
2 adults. What do you think was going through his mind? Did you get any details at all about how this all originated? All we got on the news was that it was a domestic dispute.
Sure. So, again, and I heard a lot of stories while I was there, right? And I like to talk to people and find out exactly what was going on. I know the end result. End result is 8 kids died. 2 adults end up in the hospital from rifle shots, right? A very gruesome, tragic scene of what was going on. So as I appreciate, he went to the house. He went to a separate house first, went and did some horrendous things there, and then went to the house where the majority of the children were, and then, yes, went in and opened fire. I did have the opportunity to go into part of the house where there was a washer and dryer in a bedroom. As I said, we changed the door. The landlord was there, the owner of the property was there, as well as I spoke to the father of the 10-year-old who passed away. Told him we were going to go in and change his door. I've been on many scenes, and it was gory. It was bad. Yep. Multiple shots. There was a lot of blood that was in this one particular room that I went into. The one thing I can pray for and hope for is that, with the assault that went on by the father, that everything happened quickly. Yep. That's the one thing I can pray for. And as bad as that sounds, as catastrophic as an event that it was, I just pray to God that he took these children quickly and there was no suffering.
Yeah, the ages of the children, they were small children, so like an AR-15 is I hate to use the word overkill, but so hopefully they didn't feel any pain at all. Just it went very quickly. But yeah, just you made a comment to me when we were talking at the time when you were up there that you felt like the conditions of the house were not proper or conducive to 8 children living there, in your opinion.
It was a small house. It was a small house. I will say this, stepping back to the actual incident when we changed the door, I will say this, is that there was a hole on the inside of the door that was
the exit hole.
Big. There was an exit hole on the inside. You could have fit a baseball through. Absolutely tragic. And it really makes me think of, running through my mind, what were these kids, what was going through their minds as this was going on? Because one kid did escape. And there's some footage that's out there that was on some of the news stations of a kid that's running down the road, and you can hear some shots going on at that same time. The neighbor's ring camera picked it up.
Yeah.
And hearing that and going into the house and the sights, the smells, and going around the house. There's some spots that you can see where the bullets exited the house and went into the house next door. So the big issue with it is the concern to me, again, that I've said my prayers to God and Jesus is I hope everything happened quickly, no suffering whatsoever. And
look, as a father, like, I can't get the image out of my mind of these kids seeing a man they know, their father, the man that was put on this earth to protect them, raise them into adults, and he's the one pointing the gun, trying to end their lives. That's the part that I just can't get past as a father. And so that just had to be horrifying last moments for them. But again, hopefully it was just over very quick. They didn't have to feel that shock and horror, and hopefully felt no pain.
I'll say this, from some of the photos that I've seen, and from being at that location, I don't think they knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Towards the beginning, the first ones that were executed,
Right. Yeah, just
they
quick,
did.
boom,
They,
boom, boom.
they had no
Yeah.
clue what was going
Yeah.
on. There's no way they did. Now, as he progressed through the house, doing what he did, ultimately ending upstairs or downstairs in that laundry area room, I think the kids had woken up by that point. Were startled, were scared.
Yeah, sensed
They
danger,
started digging out, yeah.
instinctively got up,
Yep.
started trying to.
Started running, started getting out. It was probably so in that house, it was a 2-story house. It was really, really odd shaped. There was an upstairs bedroom with a window that went into a little build-out room that I was talking about, where we changed the door, and it was probably 6 feet where the roof met the ground. That kid who jumped off of that roof, if that, that's the window they escaped from. Hey, they were injured when they jumped off. I mean, it was a pretty big fall.
Yeah.
It was a pretty significant height right there. Again, I've thought about it and thought about it. I could only imagine what they were thinking at the time of, the towards the end of the assault.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then the neighbors. The neighbors had to hear. I spoke to some of the neighbors on both sides, and they heard what was going on. They heard the shots. It's unconscionable to me to even know that a parent, a father, could do this to their kids.
Yeah, you'd almost have to be in a war theater to hear and see what was going on at that scene, and that's just not something that should be going on in a neighborhood in the United States of America in 2026. It's ridiculous.
And the one thing that I always preach is I can't judge. I've been to some cases. Young Mr. Davis early on in the year with Ryan, with RJ. I can't judge, but there's a special place in hell for this guy.
So, a lot of times when in these types of situations, a gunman does a mass shooting spree, kills a lot of people. In this case, man killed all of his own children and somebody else's child. A lot of times they know that they're committing an act of lunacy, and they just turn the gun on themselves at the end. That's not what happened here, is it?
No. So the story is, and that I've heard from multiple people, in fact, it was out on the news media, that there was carjacking. He got in a car, ran towards Bossier City, which is right across the river from Shreveport, and then the car, or he was identified by law enforcement, and he did not make it out of the car.
Was there any reports that there was a gunfight at the scene, or
haven't heard that there was a gunfight?
Might have brandished a weapon at some point the cops just decided he was a threat. I mean, obviously, if he matched the description of what happened at the house, they had all the probable cause they needed to use lethal force.
Well, I have utmost faith in our law enforcement, especially up there in Shreveport after meeting these guys. And, my thoughts and beliefs have no weight in what it is or what they did. I am absolutely sure that they did. They followed any guidelines or laws that they were supposed to follow. I'm sure that it was a justified shooting by the police.
Yeah. And we got, I'd hate to see somebody like that end up on trial. Of course, in this country, everybody deserves a fair trial by a jury of their peers. But, these days, judges just letting people out of jail left and right.
Sure.
So, I think that he's getting his ultimate trial right now.
Yeah, I think he had his trial when he was driving off.
Yeah.
He knew where he was going. He knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Can't say it was suicide by cop. I mean, I wasn't there.
Right.
Don't know if he brandished a weapon or what happened with the AR-15 that he had.
But he was dispatched by the police.
I just know that the end result is what I personally feel the end result should have been.
Yeah.
This guy took 8 lives and potentially could have took 2 more.
Tried
with
to
the
kill
2
10
ladies
people.
that he shot, right? That's domestic violence at its worst, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It's just a horrible situation, man. Horrible situation. Again, kudos to the police that went out and did what they did, and just
kept them from harming anybody else in the public.
Absolutely, because who knows? Monster is a great way to put it.
Yeah.
If this guy was capable of executing 8 kids,
he would kill anybody.
What could have happened after that?
Anybody that got in his way. He probably would have been like thrilled to take a shot at some uniforms. So thank God that didn't happen.
I don't know what was going through his mind, but I know what went through his mind.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
when it was
the
all
last
said
thing
and
that
done.
went through his mind was,
Yeah,
and
that was a round that needed to be there.
yeah, that's right. Well, wherever he's going, he's there. Hopefully they buried him face down so he can see where he's going.
Yeah, I don't want to be anywhere around him.
No,
when
I
it's
hear
all
that.
said and done. Again, tragic incident. Still in touch with the parents today, or the father of one that lost his son, and then some of the community members. Talk to him today. How can we help? What can we do? And again, domestic violence, mental health, and how can our organization help the community recover from this? Those are the three questions that I'm asked every day.
Yeah, we know from the 4th of July floods in Texas how hard it is when you're dealing with minors that are presumed dead. In this case, we knew they were dead. I can't even imagine what the first responders had to go through that responded to that call and what they saw. That is just really hard to get over. And that's one of the reasons why we dispatched our chaplain, Tony Dickey, who has decades of experience in bereavement counseling and responding to scenes like that. You were there with chaplain. What kind of emotions did y'all have to deal with from both first responders and community members?
Tears.
Yeah.
Tears. The tears were flowing. And let me run you through the process. We went to the house, and then what we wanted to do was meet with some of the family members, which we did. And again, broad shoulders for them to cry on. Met with them, and then we really wanted to focus on law enforcement, right? All the way from the beginning to the end, from the dispatchers that took the initial 911 calls to the detectives, investigators, and even the first responders that were there that were actually had the gruesome task of removing the children. It was surreal. It was a surreal environment in each location that we went to. We can start with the dispatchers. We brought some comfort cubs. There's the 4.5 pound bears that help with mental health.
Yeah.
So when we went into that dispatch area, to that communications room, the tears started. When they saw us there, they were extremely happy that we were there as an outside source to help them to get a little bit of comfort from us being there and able to listen to them.
And for those who aren't familiar with the Comfort Cubs, these are teddy bears, but like Josh says, they're 4.5 pounds. They're very heavy. So if you or even an adult or a child's like kind of laying down embracing it, it feels like somebody's there because it's heavy, and it's used for people who experience post-traumatic stress disorder. We distributed them a lot after the terrorist attack in New Orleans last New Year's Day. And our chaplain has a relationship with the company that makes them. So the United Cajun Navy has kind of made it one of our just outreach tools to go out when we respond to these kind of horrific, traumatic scenes. So going back to the scene in Shreveport, so we as an organization, we always huddle. We try to get as much intel as we can. We decide if there's anything we can bring to the table, and if that answer is yes, then we start making a plan. We knew we were going to send Josh up there because he always leads our field operations, and Chaplain Dickey we knew we were going to send because of the nature of this case. But we started reaching out to some local elected officials. They usually are the ones that are on the scene getting the intel really fast. Several members of the Louisiana legislature from that area in Shreveport were able to put us in touch with a lot of folks, members of the city council who you met and talked to. And then, we knew that there was probably going to be some kind of memorial. And of course, being a disaster response and relief organization, we have a lot of supplies in our warehouse that you deal with when the power goes out, and that's candles. So we spent, how many pallets of candles did we set up there?
Brought 4 pallets of candles. I think it was somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 candles.
Wow.
But we also brought some flowers. So we had some amaryllis bulbs that were in boxes that had the dirt in the pot, which is great. So we distributed those to the family, as well as went to some of the schools. We went to 2 of the schools that the kids went to and got with the administration. We gave them some of the comfort cubs, but also gave them some of the flowers. And we figured it'd be a good idea for the children that were associated with these schools to be able to plant these flowers and watch them grow into a really pretty, that bulb grow into a pretty flower. It's a
great idea. You take a really dark, ugly situation and turn it into a thing of beauty, and also it helps memorialize these children who were lost so they're not forgotten as their classmates get older and move grades up, and they still see those plants growing. So that was a great idea that y'all had. So I'm glad we're able to do that. And that's, you bring up a good point. You think about, of course, immediately the families, the neighbors, people who knew the deceased, but All those children had teachers. All those children had classmates. They had teammates that they probably played sports with. It's a tangential thing. It's a ripple effect. You don't realize how much it affects a community. So, again, as an organization, we're not police, we're not firemen, we're not medical professionals, but we do perform kind of an app-report service. I think that a lot of people, it sometimes goes missing, and a lot of these first responders have to kind of have to put on like a hard face because they deal with this kind of stuff so much. So I'm glad you guys were able to go up there. So you're there for a couple days. They did have a memorial. What was that like?
So they had a vigil, and it was 2,500, 3,000 people. So we handed out candles, handed out candles. We had enough candles.
Us, yeah.
Fire marshal was probably in the crowd wondering about all the candles. I mean, there was a lot of light being put off. It was a very emotional time. In fact, one of the children that escaped was there in a wheelchair. She wasn't there long. She was there long enough to see that the community really did care about everything that's going on, because she's got a lot of healing to go on, right? She was in the house. I had an opportunity to speak to her, so did chaplain. Very meaningful and good conversation there. But religious figures, politicians, the mayor was there, chief of police was there, the deputy chief of police, the sheriff, who, come to find out, we've had a pretty long relationship with Colonel Henry Whitehorn. He had staff that was there. So it was a good event. The community really came together, and people were all race, creeds, colors, religious, all that, were there for one reason, right? And that reason was to honor the children's lives, but also to start that healing process, which is super, super important. So it went from an empty lot back around to the house. And the vigil actually was right there in front of the house. They had 8 wooden crosses that were made, placed in front of the house, and a very, very moving time, man, to hear everybody sing and pray and, be there at that memorial was very heartwarming.
Yeah, man, I watched it. Y'all were streaming it live on Facebook, and I watched a good bit of it. Going back to the incident, so I don't want to get too much into the actual crime, but just the broad strokes is that the gunman was the father of 7 of the 8 children that died. Obviously, there were some personal domestic reasons, as we've come to understand, that made him just, lose it if you're going to start opening fire on women and children. But unfortunately, he struck and killed 8 children. One of the children was not his, but you got an opportunity to visit with the father of that young man. What was that like?
It was definitely, it was a moment I won't forget. So this gentleman lost his only son. He does have a daughter. He lost his only son, and his son was on the roof of the house.
Yeah.
So
trying to get away.
Trying to get away.
Yeah.
It was a extremely emotional moment. That man realizes he will never see his son again. His son was Mark Hayden. Mm-hmm. I am in touch with the father. I spoke to him yesterday multiple times, day before as well as today. I sent him some messages today saying, hey man, keep your chin up, your chest out. We're here for you. And I want everybody to know, the family that's surviving, the father as well, and the community, that we're here for him. Brian, we did something while we were there. We noticed some people that were going around the memorial and taking some pictures. So when you step back, you see all the balloons and the teddy bears and the candles and flowers. But we noticed something a little bit different, that there was an exterior door that was there that had some holes in it, mm-hmm. right? So, the public likes to sensationalize things. Media likes to sensationalize things. We immediately noticed this, and I went and spoke to the property owner, the homeowner, who's the pastor, has a church across the street, and said, hey, we want to replace this door for you. Not only to replace it for its functional needs, but to start that healing process as well.
Right. Yeah, you can't try to put something out of your mind if there's a door with bullet holes in it. It's still there.
Right on.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
That was a good thing to notice, and a good reaction that you guys had to it. And that's why I send you guys out there.
Right.
Good at what you do. Anything else? I mean, I know that there's going to be a repass. There were some victims that fortunately survived, but are hospitalized and are getting some medical care. And I think they were talking about waiting for some of them to be able to attend some kind of a funeral service.
Sure. The mom, the mother of the majority of the children, there are 2 women that were impacted as well. Yes, they need to get out of the hospital. These mothers need to be a part of the services, and it's going to be one service for all the children at one time. It's going to be an event. It's going to be a big event, and I anticipate there to be a huge crowd that shows up to this. Yeah, and you never know who's going to show up, because this did make national news, right?
It did, yeah. Well, and it just so happens that part of the state is represented by Mike Johnson, who's the congressman from that area. Also happens to be the Speaker of the House, and I saw he held a prayer on the floor of the House for those children and for the victims, and so that helped bring some national attention. But yeah, as we started seeing the reports coming out, I mean, it was getting picked up by the AP, New York Times. It made, I mean, I think it was BBC, so it was kind of worldwide news, and so. Yeah, it was very tragic. And again, as an organization, you know, whether it's the Maui fires or the July 4th floods in Texas, like this is just kind of what we do. We fill that little, what we think is a void of just sort of being bringing some humanity to it, because it's obviously got an investigation. There's people, you know, in this case, there wasn't an arrest because the gunman is deceased, but you know, in some cases there's you know, law enforcement activity and all that, and it's very kind of mechanical and procedural, and that's the way it's supposed to be. In the meantime, you have people who are just devastated, just got absolutely rug pulled out of their out from under them, you know, as far as their life goes. So again, thank you and Chaplain for the job you did. Any final thoughts about that mission?
So the one thing I can say is, you know, it's kind of our credo and our motto. When people need help, we bring hope. And you know, seeing these people up there that were impacted, the community, the family, law enforcement, and us having open arms for them, and you know, getting the hugs, the handshakes, and the hey, thank you for being here for us. Again, that's all the gratitude that we need, is, you know, people to realize that we're there for them. We're people, you know,
right.
We're all humans, and it's a horrible event that they went through, and we're going to be there for the long run. There are some future plans, so the repass the services for the children, but they're also going to have a domestic violence summit that the elected officials talked about. But also it needs to bring to light the importance of mental health, right? So I know that that's a huge issue right now, the mental health. And if you know somebody who's going through a hard time, man, just ask them, hey, are you okay? Is there something you want to talk about? Not that it would have stopped this event, but it's just good to, you know, to go to our brothers and sisters and say, hey, is there something you want to talk about? You never know what people are going through.
Yeah, and you brought up a good quote. When people bring help, we bring hope, because the United Cajun Navy is all volunteer organization. We don't have anybody on staff that's paid. It's just ordinary people with extraordinary skills and big hearts that can go out there and make a difference. But just want to go real quick back to, you know, what you said about domestic violence summit, mental health. This gunman should not have, correct me if I'm wrong, but he should not have had access to a gun. He should not have had access to that house. He should not have had access probably to those children, unless there's some kind of, you know, custody arrangement I'm not aware of. But it seemed like with some of the legal problems he had, he probably should have been staying away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then of course there's, you know, I hate to criticize, but I mean, look, there was balls dropped on multiple levels, whether it was Department of Children and Family Services, you know, people in the community that just might have known that this could have been a dangerous situation, and you know, so yeah, like you said, it's if you see something, say something. Saw it, report it. And we'll get into that. Get into saw it, report it one day. But yeah. Well, anyway, great job. You know, the Shreveport 8. That was just a horrible situation. It's an ongoing story, but the United Cajun Navy was proud to go and just be a small part of it and do what we do. Josh Gill, Incident Commander, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for tuning in. This is Shrimp Boots, the official podcast of the United Cajun Navy. Thanks for sticking around.